I'm going to talk about two things today. One, my experience with Currumbin Ecovillage up on the Gold Coast. And secondly, a new model that I've developed with a business partner, Rolf von Behren. Some of you may know him, down in Melbourne. The Ecovillage at Currumbin was developed 10 years ago. We just had a big celebration in December to celebrate the 10-year anniversary. So it's real, it's on the ground, it's been happening. It's about 96% complete in terms of houses being complete. And there's still a little bit of commercial to be finished off. It's 144 blocks over 272 acres. There's about 400 residents, with 100 of those being kids. It's interesting, we've flipped it, and 80% of the space is open space. So we're very lucky to have that space. Obviously, in inner city Melbourne and Sydney, you don't have that luxury. But we're working on a model for that. In 2005, it started, and it's since won 33 design awards. It is the most awarded residential estate in Australia. And yeah, I was very lucky enough to be involved in that. So yeah, thanks to Chris and Kerry for inviting me on that journey. Chris and Kerry incidentally went to Village Homes in California, said, why can't we do that here in Australia? And they did it. In operation, there's been a lot of mixed results. I'll talk about those in a minute. Just quickly, in terms of a building, you guys know about sustainable building. I don't have to tell you that. I'm not going to preach to you and lecture you about sustainable building. You're here to hear about the new models and what's happening in the future. So yeah, just to cover off quickly, at a building scale level at the Ecovillage in Currumbin, all the basics are there, and they're actually in a centimetre thick code. It's quite prescriptive in how it suggests you should design your house. So every home must have, for example, 45,000 litres of water beside or under the house, like this one. It must have some recycled content in the house. It must have internal thermal mass. It must have at least 1 kilowatt of photovoltaics on the roof. And remember, this standard was 10 years ago. So that cost someone $10,000 to put that on, less the rebate of about $6,000 at the time. But you get the idea. It's quite revolutionary back then and quite risky. In terms of its biodiversity and other sort of soft factors, the non-tangibles that people often don't count, for example, if you look at the Green Star Communities Rating tool, there's no count of bird species at the end of the day. You know, I think that would be a great metric in the future of that tool. We've counted, over the last 10 years, 176 bird species in the area, and most of those, the large majority of those, weren't there when it used to be a dairy farm. They were probably there prior to the dairy farm. But we bring them back because we're planting 98% of the plants that are actually native. We did a study and we compared the Ecovillage to the Stockland estate up the road, which was equally 8 k's in from the mainland. We're all about 20 minutes drive from the Gold Coast Airport, if you know where that is. So it is in the hinterland of the Gold Coast. It's still about 35 minutes from Surfers Paradise. I don't go up there a lot. And yeah, we use 75% less energy. Even if we take into account the 1 kilowatt of photovoltaics, it's still a 58% difference, so it's enormous. What's really interesting though on the waterfront is that we use the same amount of water, about the same amount of water as the Stockland estates up the Stockland homes up the road. So, you know, quite an interesting contrast, but I've done a whole master's on that, and if you want to read that, I'm happy to flick it to you. I've got a summary. The waste, about 81% waste, less waste. It's great having that extended family. I've got a 3-year-old and we throw her over to our neighbours on Wednesday nights and she has dinner over there on her own. It's just great. Borrowing Martin's scaffolding next week, and yeah, there's all sorts of trading going on. I'm constantly supplying her with bananas because they have 15 banana trees. That's the good side of things. The harder type of stuff is the body corporate. Body corporate in Australia, we know strata and body corporates, they're very challenging, especially for co-housing and eco-village villages, because the rules are so strict and they can't handle the number of community facilities, the shared facilities. It just doesn't work well, I've found, from my experience. This is a community-initiated library. We took the old barn upstairs and just converted it into a library because it wasn't really intended to ever be a library, but it was a spare space that the developer intentionally left for us. And people were tired of having 100 books in their homes, so we've joined them all together. Great idea. In terms of design, we've pushed the roads to the outside, like Gillo was saying. Very smart because you end up with a nice soft space down the middle. Kids can play in there. You've got your kitchens overlooking into that space. I learnt all this from Chuck when I was in Canberra co-housing 12 years ago, and I used his book basically as a Bible, and yeah, have never looked back, so thank you, Chuck. We've got, this is actually space down the middle. This common area is owned by each of these homes together. They also own their space around the outside of their home, and on the wider scale, the body corporate, they also own, say, 1% of that larger principal body corporate area. There's a lot of produce coming out of it. The sandpits often get used by kangaroos, unfortunately. But yeah, this is a picture of the greenway, straight down the middle there. Lessons for improvement, because I know you guys are here to hear about those things. So design codes, as I said, probably a bit too prescriptive. So in the future, or what I'm recommending to others, is a more objective base. So go and build a Natters rated 8-star home. How you do it, that's up to you. Now don't forget there's also toxicity you want to consider and other things like that. Ventilation won't always be picked up in the Natters tool, for those who know about rating tools. The purchase price versus affordability, actually I'll talk about that in a minute, but yeah, that's something we didn't get right there. Most of these homes are between $500,000 and $1 million, so they're premium. There are no hippies from Nimbin that have moved up into the Ecovillage in Currumbin, which is a bit sad because some of those guys are my friend as well. We're only about 2 hours north of Nimbin actually. Yeah, we talked about soft factors. Get the infrastructure right. So put in a gas line. We've got high-speed internet. We've got fibre in there, and we actually get 36,000 megabits per second, and across the road you get about 5,000 ADSL1. So we've sort of had the NBN for about the last 8 years, and it's been wonderful. So I've got a lot of architects living in the estate, and yeah, they're moving big files around, so they really appreciate that. We run our television signal over it as well. Yeah, those are pretty obvious things. So gathering all that experience and my co-housing experience, we sort of I worked with Rolf and we came up with this new model and we said, let's just go and do this. So it's high quality community facilities. We're going to get that right. It's designed by designers. So we're not actually going to get a co-housing community together and say, okay, everyone pretend to be an architect and try and get it right and spend 5 years doing that and then we'll go buy some land. We're just going to get in and do it and use professionals. It's going to be an affordable housing solution. It's not an affordable living solution. And I think that's been miscommunicated in the market. There's no point buying a $500,000 home if it's going to cost you $100,000 to live in it over the next 10 years. So in terms of health costs, in terms of toxicity, in terms of energy costs, in terms of water costs, waste. So we can flip that around. It's the long-term approach that we really want to be focusing on here. So yeah, we're after the next generation of sustainable housing. We're not going to offer these for sale. Why? You shouldn't have to have a mortgage to have a house and to be able to live in it and want to live in it for the next 20 years, 50 years if you want to. So you can live in these apartments, units, houses for as long as you like. It's going to be a perpetual lease, maybe broken up into 5 and 10 year lease cycles. No body corporates. No one wants to muck around and go to body corporate meetings 5 times a year and have disagreements with your neighbours about colours of things. We're going to allow that and we're going to have monthly meetings, but it's not going to be regulated like under the Body Corporate Act. It's going to be far more fluid. And because people are renting, we need to make sure that the governing body actually has the big say about things at the end of the day. So yeah, it's a bit more organised. Central services, it's repeatable. So in the future, I've seen a lot of co-housing estates and a lot of eco-villages, but they're never repeated. Even if they're successful, Findhorn, the one down in Tasmania, Cascade co-housing. Christie Walk in Adelaide, that's a great tour if you go through there. Very happy community of 26 homes in a straw bale, 2-storey, 3-storey. Shared meals, as Stina said, we want to encourage residents to have a meal, but it's not compulsory. If you want to come down for 2 or 3 nights a week for an $8 meal and share it with others, you can. So all of these smart home village apartments are individual homes on their own. They have their own bathrooms, their own kitchens, everything like that. But we're still working on the perfect site because we want the first one to be iconic. So we're looking in Sydney and Melbourne, and you're welcome to help us. We do have a specific site just south of Newtown that we're looking at right now. Had a meeting about today. High quality of life, that's what it's all about. As I mentioned, the meals. So we have meals maybe 3 or 4 times a month down at the community hall. We also have a craft beer tasting night, which is great, and most of the people who rock up are female. This is actually where we have our beer tasting night, craft beer tasting night. It's for anyone of any age. It's like a retreat. It's like a resort. And it's like an aged care facility, but for anyone of any age. And you can stay there longer. And you can still participate in the decision-making process. There'll be an opportunity to include things like some retail on the ground floor. It might be 2 or 3 stories. We're thinking higher density. It's got to be near transport to work. You know, the Ecovillage in Currumbin isn't near any public transport, and it really suffers because of that. A lot of people have 2 cars, so you know that's certainly something that didn't work well in that model. But yeah, we want to make it easy for people to be able to stay there as long as they want. So This developer, Smart Urban Villages, the holding company, will actually own and operate the community forever. Okay? We're not a Stockland, we don't get in and walk off and leave you to it. We're in there forever. So if it falls down or if it doesn't operate well or if you're too hot, you can come and complain to Smart Urban Villages directly. What is it? As I mentioned, medium density housing near economic centres. It can only be about 15 kilometres from a city centre, otherwise we don't think we're going to be able to scale it up enough. So we're looking at 20 to 50 homes at a time. Why? There's a figure called Dunbar's number, and it suggests that we can't actually interact with more than 150 people at once. You know, I know Bob, I know Jane, but Sue, I haven't seen Sue for a few months. Oh, who is she? Where's she come from? And would I invite Sue over for dinner? Am I going to drop Imogen over to her to babysit? Should I go and give her some bananas? I don't know. Where is she? So it's that... I've got so many new friends at the Ecovillage in Currumbin, it's ridiculous. But yeah, it's that sort of... Even the Ecovillage at Currumbin's too big because we've got 400 people. I don't know everyone by their first name. And that's a scary thought. So it's about that, that naturally occurring nexus. This is an example of a portal. Every community should have one of these, but we don't. We should be able to jump online and feedback to our neighbour about what events are going on locally. And we can do that at the Ecovillage in Currumbin. This is actually a real one. So we've got yoga going on where is it, Monday morning. After that, we've got some mindfulness sessions. We've got a dinner. We've got a body corporate meeting occurring on Thursday night. So it's not overly organised or regimented, but this has made life a lot easier. We set up our own portal with about 5 different email lists, basically, and pull them together. Who is Smart Urban Villages? I'll skip that bit because you can find out more about us online. We only mentioned this a few months ago, mid-2015, and it went a bit crazy. We've never advertised the fact, so you guys are like the third people we've ever presented to. We filled up a room in Melbourne just a few months back, but yeah, it's gone a bit crazy. So once we've actually got the site, we expect then to announce that specific site, and if you guys are interested in that, just grab my card, it's over there. Like us on Facebook and send us your email and we'll keep in touch, keep you up to date. A number of sites, you might know some of those suburbs already. I've jotted down some references. If you want to take this slide pack away, I'm happy to send you that. Useful books and resources that I've used over the years. You'll notice Chuck's is up the top there, and I didn't put that up there for tonight. It's been like that for the last 10 years when I've been doing these presentations. Those are my contact details. So sorry for rushing, but I hope I didn't speak too quickly. I'll slow it down next time we get to meet. And over to Chuck.